Welcome to the Doc G Show, a radio show cluster. Without further ado, critics have said he has the face for radio and a voice for silent films. Your host, Ben Doc G Gordon.
And we are on the air. Welcome to the Doc G Show. I'm your host, Doc G. With me, as always, the one, the only, Mikey Maximus, the D.A.D. Charette.
Dr. G. How's it going, sir?
Good, man. That's you. I'm going to try to come up with so many ways
D.A.D.
to call you a dad in different ways. That's what you do now.
This is it, man. This is pretty much the full-time job.
That's one of the, it's a pretty big job. It's a pretty big job. It's right up there. I couldn't handle it. I'll say right now.
Nope.
I would have already gone insane, Mike.
Yeah.
If I was
creeping.
If I was married to your wife, I'd already you would see me. You would now see our Zoom would be me in some kind of bunker, like in in the Caribbean. Like I was like, I gotta hide out, you guys. I had
told
to
her
go.
I was getting cigarettes.
I'm never going back. I'm never going back. No. Anyways, Mike, I've got a serious topic I need to talk about. Something very important. I'm supposed to go to wedding festivities.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Girl, come on. Listeners, if you're new here, I hate weddings. Let me explain to you listeners that are new. For the last 7 years of the show, I've had a segment called Why Weddings Suck. It's dormant for most of the year. I don't bring it out too often.
So true.
But we have a segment called Why Weddings Suck. I do not like them, listeners. I don't like them because it's forcing fun. Mike knows this. Force fun.
Never good.
They schedule you to have fun around their festivities. Hey, you're going to get there at 3. You're going to sit with these people. And then we're going to do a couple of activities. Stupid, Mike. I don't want to do them. All right? They're trying to cage a free bird. And by God, you can't cage a free bird, Mike.
No, you can't.
Skinner taught me that. Shout out.
America!
Anywho, Mike, I need to explain the situation to you. Feel free to interject and ask all questions you need. But reserve your full judgment for what you think I should do until the end. Okay? So here we go. I have a friend. This friend's name is Ryan. And you know what? I wouldn't normally name a person like this on the show, but he's not going to listen to the show, so he doesn't get to be anonymous, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Ryan is the guy, all right? If he listens to the show, I'll redact his name from the start. We'll just bleep it out. You won't hear it anymore. But until he listens to the show, Ryan, that's his name, Mike. Yeah! So Ryan, a couple of months ago, texted me. And he was like, dude, I'm getting married. You know? And I was like, let's be honest. My honest reaction when I got the text was like, oh, God. Right? But I sent back to him. I told him.
So anyways, after 3 days of not responding, I decided to text him back.
No. I immediately, Mike, I went right back and I told him all the normal person things. You know, I told him, hey, congratulations, bro. Oh, my God, dude. I got to meet her. You know, all kinds of stuff like that. You know?
Blam.
And he was like, dude, you got to come to my bachelor party. And I was like, okay, sure, why not, you know? And I was like, where is it? He's like, it's North Carolina. Son of a I tried to talk him into, for about 3 weeks, Mike, him having it Miami, you know? I was like, dude, warmer weather, great strippers, way close to me, all good things. Did not budge. Girl, come on. Just kept on telling me about how we were going to have it in an icy hole in the middle of winter in North Carolina. And I was like, okay. So then, like a week after that, He's like, hey, the Airbnb is going to be like $200 some a person.
Word.
What the I thought this was a free endeavor, Mike. I was like, 200. What? He's just like, yeah, Venmo it to me anytime you get the chance. I wanted to text back like, this thing isn't in your backyard. You know your backyard is free, man. We can hang out there anytime. Like, so I sent him the $200 some, you know? And mind you, Mike, I'm most likely going to be the last person that gets to these festivities because I'm coming from the furthest distance.
Right.
And I've got work. So I'm not going to show up there until the very end of the night, and they're going to be like, oh, by the way, this broom closet, that's where you're staying. So that's the kind of amenities I'm going to get for this money, by the way.
Yeah.
So
the pull-out couch. Oh,
yes,
God.
exactly. Which I'm
sorry, man, you were last, bro. Sorry, bro.
Exactly. I actually, honestly, I'd be fine with a pull-out couch. I don't think it's going to be that good. They're going to be like, here's the kitchen counter. Enjoy that. We wiped off the liquor bottles for you.
We have an ironing board, and it's but it's plush. It's one of the soft ironing boards.
It's got extra padding in it. So now we're getting closer, Mike. We're almost there. I gotta be honest. I really don't want to do it. I don't want to go.
Nope.
I really don't, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I might not go. And I know what listeners are doing. I know what you're saying right now, listeners. You're like,
it could be fun.
That is pretty selfish, Ben.
That
is and that. Yeah, it could be fun. Which, first of all, with that one, Mike, no. Let me answer those listeners. It will not be. The fun that I will have will not outweigh the 16 hours of traveling.
Yeah.
No way.
It kind of dies out.
No way. I would have to have a party with 8 pounds of cocaine and millions of dollars and 45 hookers to equal the time of 16 hours of travel. Huh? And let me tell you, that's not the party we're having. There's already been talk of what gaming devices we're all bringing. What? I'm not traveling 16 hours to play Pac-Man. It's not happening, Mike. Anyways, let me explain the other one. So there's some folks that are saying it could be fun, right? That's why it's not going to be fun, listeners. Now on the other side, the other thing, what a bad friend I am. Let me explain why I'm not a bad friend, Mike. I asked Ryan multiple times to be on this show when I've been in a bind.
So true.
Like when you have had work, when you've had to go do stand-up, or before when you weren't on the show yet, and I had Dave had an emergency, and I had to get. I asked him, and let me tell you, listeners would have loved Ryan as a co-host. He would be a fantastic co-host. I mean, obviously no Mike Charette, but he'd be a great co-host. He'd be a fun time to have, Mike.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every time he said yes, and then he ghosted me. Every single time he said, oh, yeah, totally, bro. I'll do it. And then I text him like, dude, are you ready? You ready for the show? It's coming up. You're coming up? Nothing. Nothing. I sent him $400 worth of recording equipment to be on the show. He's never used it.
Oh.
It's sitting in his apartment, unused. Girl, come on. We have 409 episodes of this show. Each of them is my wedding, Mike. Each of them are worth a wedding to me. And he my weddings. Every single one of them.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
So,
I'm sorry, man.
All I'm saying is, now he expects me, which I've already paid more than I paid for that recording equipment, now to travel 16 hours to meet him for one wedding. Do I need to do that? Is that on me to be a good friend? Would I be a better friend? Of course I'd be a better friend. But to equal, it's a give and take. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, with everything said here, I wouldn't go.
Right, Mike. That's what I was looking for.
I probably wouldn't go.
That's what I'm looking for. Validation. That's what I wanted. Really, I just wanted somebody to agree with me. And thank you, Mike.
Said, yeah, I'd probably. Hey, I'm sorry, man. It's 16 hours. I just can't make the drive right now. It's just, yeah.
Right. I've got a full-time job. I've got a full-time job, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I would fly. I would have to fly, and then that wouldn't be worth. Yeah.
Well, and even still, then you're talking $300 more. And then you're talking 2 hours of waiting before the flight, and then the flight is 2.5 hours. Then you got to drive from the airport. It's still 8 hours, and you're paying another $300.
Oh, yeah.
No, the answer is no, Mike.
Yeah, no.
Listeners, I hope you agree with me and Mike. I'm just saying, don't be disappointed in me.
Yeah.
Know that I hate weddings.
That's a fact.
And no, this show is an anti-wedding. Mm-hmm. All right? It's a celebration of friendship in the truest sense, Mike.
Yeah.
Organized rambling. Yes. You know it. I know it. Are you ready to fire it up?
Let's fire up the show, Doc G.
All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and lift off.
Oh, my gosh. I had to get that off my chest, Mike. It's been... Now, here's another question. I didn't go into this, Mike, but do I actually go to the wedding now?
I mean, I guess the wedding's one thing, but so the wedding is 16 hours away as well.
Same thing.
Oh man, yeah, I would probably not go. I'm sorry, Doc G, but that's 64 hours of driving.
32. Not 16 one way, 8 one way. So 16 total.
Oh, okay.
Come back.
I gotcha.
32 hours. But still, over a day of straight driving. Over a day.
Too much.
Listeners, I'm not trying to bring you down. We have a fantastic show. I'm sorry. This is my life's trials and tribulations, which I'm sure there's somebody out there with cancer that's like, are you kidding me? He's complaining about a wedding? What is wrong with this guy? I get it. My problems are awesome relative to most problems right now, but still, it's something I don't want to deal with, listeners. But guess what? We get to deal with something fantastic on the show today. We have the head and the heart on the show. My gosh. Big musical guest, Mike. Big musical. These guys are big time. This is if you get time to do this. I did this researching for the interview, Mike. In 2019, pretty close to before the pandemic, they did a live show in Pike Market in Seattle. You know, Pike Market, the fish market that's in downtown. You ever been there?
No.
Okay, it's like one of the really famous. You might have seen videos of where dudes throw fish, like big fish, across the market between each other.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, that's in That's in Pike Market.
Okay.
They did a live show there with over 30,000 people. It was a free show, and they just shut down the streets. And like, it's one of those things you can just see people for like blocks just going down. And I was just like, oh man, that is crazy. That is wild, you know? But yeah, big timers, man. Two of their songs, just two of them, over 500 million listens on Spotify.
Wow.
Yeah. Just two songs over 500 million. You can get 5 of their songs and get to 1 billion. It's wild. A lot of streams, man. A lot of streams. Fantastic career. They're coming out with a new album this month. Very cool. Can't wait to talk to Tyler, their drummer. It's going to be a good time. But we need to start where we start.
Birthday suit.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Okay, Mike. I don't know if you can get this one. I've talked about him a lot, but it's not like a name you necessarily hang on to. This one not nearly as embarrassing as MLK if you don't get this one.
Okay.
So, but still a good name to know. So we'll give it a shot here. Born on January 22nd, 1931. He is my favorite soul singer of all time. He's got songs like Change Is Gonna Come, Bring It On Home to Me, Cupid, Chain Gang, and a whole bunch of others. He's often known as the King of Soul. So as we remember from the last one, King of Rock and Roll, Elvis. King of Soul. Any ideas, Mike?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the initials because I don't think the more detailed clues are gonna give you anything else. But the initials SC.
SC.
I know you've heard the name a bunch.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what soul music is, and I don't recognize any of the sound titles, so I'm drawing a blank.
1950s. That's the sound of the men working on the chain gang. That's the sound of the men working on the chain gang.
Sorry, Doc G.
Cupid, draw back your bow. That's soul
That's
music.
nice.
Slow,
That's nice.
slow music with a good R&B feel to it. Anywho, Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke. Okay.
Sam Cooke, Mike, the best. As I'm pretty positive I have told you at some point, if I could sing like anybody, it would be Sam Cooke. If I could talk like anybody, it'd be Morgan Freeman. If you put them together, my God, I would be unstoppable. And they're both from Mississippi. So there you go. Born in Clarksdale, Mississippi, Sam was. Then he moved to Chicago. He was singing by the time he was 6. He led a a cappella group when he was 14. In 1950, he started singing gospel. That's what he first started singing. And he was in a group called the Soul Stirrers. And then he switched over to R&B or soul music. And in the span of 7 years, he had 30 top 40 hits. So 30 that went above top 40. Yeah.
Wow.
You Send Me, Chain Gang, Another Saturday Night, a whole bunch of them. Sadly, our birthday suit wearer was murdered in 1964. So, yeah, it's a real weird situation, Mike. It's one of those that it doesn't make Sam look so great. As far as what the recounting of the night was, but it's also a little shady. You don't know what happened. So apparently he went home with this lady after people saw him at this restaurant. He went to a motel, and at the motel, the woman that he went with accused him basically of trying to like rape her. And she ran away from the room, and Sam came out of the room and was trying to find the woman, and he ran into the lady that was working at the hotel, and she shot him and killed him. Yeah, because she said she feared for her life.
Wow.
Yeah, and, there's never... Now, both of them recounted the night. Both of these women recounted the night. They passed a polygraph test, but it's just one of those things that it just... it's weird, and it's out of character. It doesn't make sense, and it's just a lot of things that were just very, very bizarre. Muhammad Ali said, if this was anybody that was a white performer, they would have had the FBI out there in 5 seconds. But since it was Sam Cooke, they just let it drop. And, yeah, it's regardless of the weirdness, Mike, our birthday suit wearer was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, soul singer of all time. He is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He won a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and Rolling Stone, like a bunch of turd bags they are, put him number 4 on their greatest singers of all time, when clearly should have been 1. Whatever.
Blam.
Sam Cooke, Mike. Sam Cooke. Fantastic. Right now, go ahead, put it on your to-do list. Listen to some Sam Cooke.
Listen to some Sam Cooke. Okay.
Sam Cooke. If you want to be hopeful and stirred with emotion of the promise of another day, listen to Change. Change is going to come.
That's a fact.
There is nothing more soul-stirring than that song. My God.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
It is
Gotcha.
right there.
Give it a listen.
Mike, are you ready to rip some headlines?
Let's rip some headlines, Doc G.
It's now time for Rip from the Headlines.
Mike, let's start off with a headline here from Entertainment Weekly. Quote, Roseanne Barr tries to start beef with Eminem in awful pro-Trump rap song, Granny's Going Bad, end quote. You know Roseanne, right, Mike?
Oh, of course, yeah. And I also
Yeah.
know
She
pretty
derailed.
wild.
She
Yeah.
derailed. So, listeners, if you don't know, super famous from the 80s, 90s, Roseanne. Great show back in the day.
Yeah.
She decided to make a rap song with Tom McDonald. And the actual title, Mike, is Daddy's Home. And I gotta say, I don't like to judge people's music just straight up, but this one does suck pretty hard.
Okay.
It's pretty bad. And I was thinking of this, Mike. Have you ever put leftovers in the fridge and leave it there so long that they go bad?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. But then instead of throwing it out, you just leave it in there longer? Like it's just like one of those to-dos and you're like, oh, I got to do that. But you never do. You don't just throw it out. It just sits there in its little tin foil getting older and older.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever done it intentionally, but, you know, maybe it's definitely probably past the due date, and I
Yes.
probably knew it was, yeah.
Yes. And it just gets longer and longer. And after a couple of months, you don't even know what it is. You can't see how at one point in time that used to be appetizing. You're like, what is? Yeah, it's gross. There's fuzz on the top. I don't even know. But there it is. There it is in your refrigerator. That's Roseanne in my entertainment refrigerator, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't recognize her. I don't
either,
know
yeah.
what she does. I'm like, I know at one point you used to be normal and funny. Not anymore. Not anymore. Very weird, Mike. Very weird.
Yeah, she
Mike,
is.
I've got a headline from Variety. You know Kat Dennings?
She's the, I think, a tattoo artist.
No. That's Kat Von D you're thinking of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, never mind.
Kat Dennings, I think she's most known for the sitcom there, Two Broke Girls. Do you remember that one? It was like
no.
it was in the teens back there. Anywho, she's also, it's very wild, she's married to the musician Andrew W.K. You remember that guy?
Yeah, I think he was a one-hit wonder guy.
He had a real popular song in 2001 that was like, let's get a party started, let's get a party started, now we're party hard. Yeah, which is a really weird grouping of those two. But that's not the point, Mike. The point is, I brought up Kat Dennings because this headline is about Kat. Here's the headline. Quote, Kat Dennings says casting directors told her she wasn't pretty enough and fat at age 12. There was not a lot of inclusivity at all. End quote. That's sad, Mike.
Yeah, it is.
That's sad. But it's the exact same thing I told Mike when he tried to come on the show the first time. I said, no, Mike, you're a fat uggo. I can't take you. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. We wanted him, Mike. We begged Mike to come on the show.
You are an uggo, but we would love for you to.
We still begged him to be on the show. But back to the article, Mike. This is interesting. Kat Dennings said in the interview, this is exactly what she said. She said, for example, I was 12. I'd go into an audition and I'd do it, and my manager would call me and I'd be like, how'd it go? And they'd be like, well, they thought you weren't pretty and you were fat. And I mean, after hearing that quote, Mike, I got to say, sure, the casting directors sound like but also in hindsight, wouldn't it be nice for your manager not to be too? Like, your manager could have been like, yeah, they said you need to enunciate your lines more. Like, you could sugarcoat it a little bit. They're 12. You don't need to be like, hey, listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They thought you were a fat, disgusting piece of shit, so go kill yourself. All right.
Their words, not totally mine.
Not mine. I did agree with them when I was talking to them. I was like, yeah, that's totally right. But they brought it up. I didn't bring it up. Like, what? Like, come on. I mean, I blamed the manager a little bit more than the casting directors on that one, Mike. I was like,
yeah,
you would expect.
There was a way to stop it.
I feel like too, if I was the casting director, I might throw that out. Be like, hey, you are gonna neaten this up when you actually tell her, right? You're not gonna just tell us those words. Maybe give them some options to the manager, like, hey, instead of saying that she was overweight and fat, how about or overweight? No, same thing. How about you tell her we would like to see a taller individual? You know, it's like, come on. I'm just saying. Anyways, Mike, I've got a headline from The Guardian. Do you know Guy Pearce?
Guy Pearce, actor?
Yes.
Yes, but I don't know anything else.
Yeah. He's an English-born Australian actor, and he was
Guy Ritchie films?
Maybe.
I'm just making the association there. Probably Guy.
Guy.
All right. So
he was Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3. That's what I saw sort of come up with him the most. But anyways, here's the headline about Guy Pearce. Here you go. From The Guardian. Quote, Guy Pearce, my ex-wife was the greatest love of my life, but I've moved on now. End quote. Gotta say, Mike, doesn't seem like he's moved on. You know? Nobody points out something like that when you've actually moved on. You know? That's like going out with friends, and then like 3 hours after dinner, one of your friends is like, well, I mean, you could have not eaten that last roll, you know? I don't care. They care. They really care about that roll. That's him. That is that
roll
dude.
Eaters.
You know? But second, Mike, I got to say, I don't know. Obviously, you're not that familiar with Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce saying that. He said, my ex-wife was the greatest love of my life, and now I've moved on. He's currently dating Carice Van Houten, and they have a kid together.
Oh.
Huh?
What? That's got to feel awesome for her. Like, well, the real love of my life was my ex-wife. Now I'm dating this mound of crap, but what can you do? All right, I got like, Joe, how does he explain that when she reads this article? Like, does she already know this? This is ridiculous, Mike. It's very ridiculous.
I love you, kind of, but you know, I do love you.
Like, I mean, just go ahead, put yourself in that situation, Mike.
Yeah.
Try thinking about explaining to Stacia, like, you're not my favorite. The favorite was before you, but we're together. Like,
we're here now.
What? This is oh my God! And she's not dead. The ex-wife is still living and breathing out there. You're just like, oh.
If they're dead, it's okay.
Well, it's. I mean,
Well,
it's at
they're
least
dead.
it's a little different. Like, you're like, well, I would be with them, but they're gone, so can't do. You know,
this was after we broke up. They died, but still, you know.
Exactly. I was planning my comeback. Never made it. Mike, I've got a headline from Chowhound. You know we like Chowhound.
We love Chowhound, yeah.
Here's the headline. Quote, 13 ways to infuse liquor into baked goods. Good, right, Mike?
Yes.
Right? Just the other day, I was telling a friend, I was like, I need a way to get some booze into this muffin.
Yeah.
Is there any... This blueberry muffin's all right, but what if it was a rum blueberry muffin?
These rum cakes are too big to take to work.
Nah, can't do it. Mike, this is literally how the article starts. It says, the article starts by saying, quote, even if you craft a couple of cocktails each week at home, you're probably sitting on liquor bottles longer than you'd like. They're not grenades. Like, who's sitting there in their house like, well, everything's pretty good with this house except for those bottles of tequila up there. We got to get rid of them. Like, they can sit there as long as they want. They're fine. Liquor never goes bad. Like, ridiculous, Mike.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Not good.
I don't need 13 ways to put, and it literally all the article is, it's just like, hey, throw some booze in here. Now, how about here? Do it here. Like, I don't think it took an article.
Does it pair well? Well, we don't know. Just put it in there.
Exactly. That's pretty much the response.
That's a blueberry muffin. You'll be fine.
It's,
Blueberry tequila, blueberry muffin. It goes together.
Good pair. Anywho, Mike, we need to take a break. We are going to hear from our guest. This is none other than the head and the heart right here on the Doc G Show. And we are back here on the Doc G Show, Spinnaker Radio, WSKRLP 95.5 FM in Jacksonville, Florida. Mike, what do the listeners need to do?
Well, Doc G, if the listeners are so inclined and they feel like this show is a positive way to waste their time, they should please subscribe to the show. Subscribe on whatever you can, on all of them. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts. It's a cost-effective way to support the show and listeners. If you are feeling extra generous, please leave us a 5-star review. And tell a friend about the show as well. That would really help us.
Shout out to all the people that did follow us on Spotify. We've got a small group amassing, overcoming the algorithm of Spotify. I think I don't know the actual number, but there's definitely tens of people.
Nice.
That
Thank you, tens.
Listen to our request to try to build up the old Spotify, so really appreciate that. Also, a couple people commented on Spotify about our shows, so
cool. Thank you.
I forget her name, but somebody commented on the Ali Sadiq interview. Great interview for a great start to the year. Amen.
That's right.
It is. I'm not that optimistic, but I'll follow your lead, listener. Yes.
So true.
Yes. But anyways, Mike, thanks to everybody that has been following, that has been listening. We appreciate it. Mike, we need to thank the 5-star listeners.
We do.
Here we go. Hold on. Let me get everything positioned right. Here we go. Shout out to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Columbus, Ohio, Falkenstein, Germany, Jacksonville, Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, Radford, Virginia, Gainesville, Florida, Frankfurt, Germany, Anoka, Minnesota, Ashburn, Virginia, Pircai, Brazil, San Diego, California, Dublin, Ireland, Boardman, Oregon, Genoa, Italy, Richmond, Texas, Barcelona, Spain, Winfield, West Virginia, Biloxi, Mississippi, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Peoria, Illinois, Katy, Texas, Toms River, New Jersey, Olive Branch, Mississippi, Asheville, North Carolina, Los Angeles, California, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Athens, Georgia, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Chicago, Illinois, and Boynton, Virginia.
Yes. Nice.
There you go. That's a pretty solid run, Mike.
That was a good one.
That was a pretty solid run, but I don't
was.
know if you noticed this. I think one of the reasons it's solid, I've almost gotten back to the top of the lineup from where we've been switching. Mm-hmm. So it's almost a very familiar run. I only had 3 there. We only had 3 that were out of place. So I don't know if I can take credit for it or not. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to brag about how I may become the guy that reads the fine print in car ads from now on. Mm-hmm. Mike, 4-star listens. Here we go. First off, I got some sad news before we get to 4-star listens, Mike. I'll tell you who wasn't on the list.
Who?
DACA.
My bad.
Dhaka, Bangladesh.
My bad. I'll take responsibility for
No,
that.
no. I thought we were friends, Dhaka. I thought we had developed a bond. I thought we overcame Mike's negativity, and now we were all friends. But apparently we're not, Mike. Apparently they didn't think to come back. You know, this is what I did, Mike. I even got Dhaka news. I've got Dhaka news. You want to hear the Dhaka news?
Of course.
I mean, nobody from Dhaka's listening, but you want to hear some Dhaka news?
For sure.
This is local Dhaka news. This is from Dhaka Tribune, the old Dhaka Tribune. I think you get your daily copy. Quote: local gangster hacked to death in Dhaka's Mirpur. Jeez. I think that's how you pronounce it, Mirpur. Doesn't sound like a good headline, Mike. Then the subtitle of it, though, is, quote, he was declared dead by doctors after being rushed to Kermatola General Hospital. Which I don't know, Mike. I don't think you need to be declared dead when you were hacked to death, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you term it hacked to death, I think that's pretty... Pretty
we
evident.
got all of his pieces together, and then we took it to the
we
hospital.
We had to take him to the hospital. Like, what do you think? Is he going to make it? Is sew him back together? No? Okay. Like, no. I feel like, yeah, that's a pretty noticeable one there when you get to the scene, you know?
Yeah.
You know what his nickname was, though, this guy? Babu Blade.
Babu
or wait,
Blade.
I think I might have it backwards. It might be Blade Babu.
Blade Babu.
It's one of the two.
Okay.
One of the two. I thought it was a pretty cool nickname,
it's cool both ways, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, but either way, he did not come out of that looking good. That is, and a note to self, Mike, if we ever do go to Dhaka, we are going to avoid the Mirpur district. That is sounds rough. If people are getting hacked to death, I don't know. That's
So true.
You know, I didn't think about it, Mike. What if it was Babu Blade that's listening to our show? Oh no, that's
it all makes sense.
R.I.P. indeed, Mike. R.I.P. Because it doesn't matter his gangster activity. If he's a listener to the Doc G show, he's all right.
Yeah, he is.
He's all right. Anyways, Mike, let's thank the folks that did tune in, the tuners. First off, Pompano Beach.
Shoutouts.
You ever go to Pompano?
I don't know actually. That's in Florida, right?
Oh yeah.
It's is it Panhandle?
No.
That's
East Coast. That's East Coast. Yeah, South Florida.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close to Fort Lauderdale.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. It's up there about 15 miles. 15 miles above Fort Lauderdale.
Cool.
Yeah. Miramar, Florida. Also pretty close as well. For some reason
awesome.
we were getting all the listings there.
Love those
Albany,
places.
New York. Yeesh.
Cold.
Yeah, give it to me, Mike. What do you think? What do you think
Man,
Albany, New York is right now?
Right now, I'm going to go 19 degrees.
I think you're probably pretty close. You're pretty close. 18. 18.
Ugh, brutal.
Forget that noise. No, thank you.
So true.
Toronto, Canada, Mike. Toronto's probably it's probably actually colder, would be my guess.
Love Toronto.
Very nice. Very lovely. Santa Clara, California. Also nice. Lovely. Riverside, California. Riverside, they're pretty regular. They're almost getting into that regular category, guys. Orlando, Florida.
Shout
out
out.
to the O-Town. Yeah. Monroeville, Pennsylvania. You know any Monroeville, Mike?
No, I don't know a lot about Pennsylvania, even though I've been there a lot.
Your wife is originally from there, right?
Yeah, I just don't know anything about like the geography about
Monroeville. Probably. Hey, who knows? It could be somebody in your wife's circle. It's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, it's in Pittsburgh.
Monroeville. It's in the surrounding area.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Lake City, Florida, Mike. Gotten a lot of Florida listens this week. Shout out to the Florida folks.
Cool.
Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah, Indianapolis. It's an all right city. It's pretty nice. Yes! So, shout out to your quaintness, Indianapolis. If you're offended by that, I apologize. If you guys want to be a hard city, my bad. Show me the rough side. Anywho, Syracuse, New York, Mike. Shout out to Syracuse. Ooh, lake effect snow. No, thank you.
Yeah, very cold.
And lastly, Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham.
Shout out to the B-Ham, Mike. Yes.
Shout out.
Okay. Listeners, anybody that is friends with anybody in Dhaka, let them know. We're disappointed in them.
We are.
They need to come back. We're expecting our Bangladesh population to be the biggest Doc G show supporters. We want them to lead the charge of international Asian listeners of the Doc G show.
Yes.
Bangladesh. Anyway, Mike, you ready? We need to go to our interview. We are going to be talking to the drummer of the fantastic, well-established, super famous, The Head and the Heart, right here on the Doc G show. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are very happy to be welcoming the drummer of the fantastic band, The Head and the Heart, who released their single, Arrow, back in October, and they're getting ready to release some more music this month. Mr. Tyler Williams. Tyler, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain. Now, are you currently in the Richmond area?
Yeah, that's right. I'm just a little bit north of Richmond. And John also lives here, my bandmate. He's a singer, plays guitar, writes a bunch of songs. He is in the south side of Richmond. So
nice.
We're the East Coasters in the band.
Now, I saw, I have a couple of friends in the area of Richmond, and they were on a boiling water alert there for like a week or so. You're not having that issue, are you?
No, luckily I think that's hopefully been taken care of. I think I'm on a well up here. I'm like
that makes it
off grid. Just trying to hunker down a little bit.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. That I saw that on social media. There, are you said you bought it's an old horse farm?
Yeah. My friend, his family kind of lived here since the early '90s, and he ran a studio across the street, music studio. Did all the stuff for a label called Space Bomb. He's recorded like Foxygen, Natalie Press over there. Just made some really great records. And he was moving out to LA. So he was like, hey, why don't you take it over? And I didn't realize the amount of work I was getting myself into. But, it's a cool spot. And then the studio got taken over by Tame Impala's front of house engineer. So it's like,
there you go.
We've got a very nice setup here, and we actually made the new Head and the Heart record over there, right across the street. So
nice. No, well, like I sort of thought about that when you said, you took over this horse farm. I was like, I feel like that's a lot of maintenance.
It's a lot of work. I mean, yeah. There's no horses, but it's still a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, the house. I mean, a house that's over 200 years old. I feel like there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, I'm nowhere close to 200, and there's a lot of maintenance that goes into me. So, like, that's
absolutely true. Absolutely true. I mean, it's something where you sort of just have to dive in head first and not worry about what tomorrow looks like. You just have to kind of, I think
seize today,
and then it's kind of like it's conservation. It's kind of historic preservation, trying
Oh,
to keep this place alive for the future because it's a remarkable place. So,
Well, hey man, if the rest of the house looks like your office there, it's a lovely place. It's a lovely place.
I'm trying to get through all of these in my lifetime, and I don't think it's gonna happen. So, I don't think it's gonna.
I also, well, one other thing on that, I saw the post that I saw about the horse farm. You were working on a garden. Is the garden going to be ready come spring?
Hopefully, yeah. We're trying to do a little like cut flower farm here, and it's sort of, my wife is really taking over this project, and she's super passionate about it. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
There we go.
That's just adding more fuel to the fire here of work, and nonstop, just going.
I like it. Well, I mean, you mentioned it, so listeners may know not everybody from the band are Seattle folks, and you and John are from Richmond. Well, not Richmond. You're from Richmond.
Peripheral, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you guys, you met. Did you meet at VCU?
We actually went to high school together.
Okay.
He had kind of grown up in Florida a little bit for the majority of his early life.
Nice.
I was always in Fredericksburg, Virginia, about an hour north of Richmond, hour south of DC. And we were playing in bands in high school, kind of just vibing, feeling each other out. And then after high school, he asked me to join this other band, and he was actually the singer in that. And that was the first time he'd ever really sang. He was playing piano. He wasn't even playing guitar at that time. So he wasn't really experimenting with guitar until he kind of moved to Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was in kind of like March of 2009.
So, did you already see when he was, when you first started playing with him in high school, did you already notice, oh, this guy's got some, there's some talent here for sure?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like he always had this different perspective in his songs, lyrically. It was like coming from a place that made you feel something kind of like, you would see glimpses of like brilliance, and I think there was always that level of his mind working on the big questions out there that would penetrate into the songs. And so I think as he kind of shifted into learning the guitar and moving out to Seattle, I think it even just kind of like catapulted that his songwriting forward. And he sent me a demo of Down in the Valley when I was, I'm just living back in Richmond, waiting tables. And I was like really blown away by the songwriting. I was blown away by just the lyrical imagery of it. And based on that alone, I was like, I'm coming out there. Like, let's do this. He had Kenny and Josiah with him already. So,
well,
yeah,
I want to get to that start, but before I get to that real quick, what you've been drumming since you were 9?
Yeah.
What got you into drums initially? What made you pick up the sticks?
Yeah, my dad was a bass player, so rhythm section, unite, My brother wanted to he wanted to learn how to play guitar, and I think my dad saw it as kind of
family jam band.
Totally. Whether it happened or not, that's what he was hoping for. And I think he was just like, you're gonna play drums. Your brother's playing guitar. Here's some instruments. After we'd kind of shown that we were, really into it. And then he was like, "All right, let's jam together." And we're like, "Dad, nah, we're good. We're starting a band.
You're not cool enough. Sorry."
Our friend across the street's playing bass. But yeah, my dad was playing with Bertie Higgins in Florida before he married my mom. So he sort of always had this like Bertie got big after my dad left.
Yeah.
And so I think my dad always had this sort of like unfulfilled dream in a way, and I think it's been really fun taking him along on this ride. And that's kind of how I got into drums, because of my dad, really.
Well, now, what were the, like, once you got into drums, what were the musical influences? Like, what were you listening to when you first started?
It was a lot of Green Day, a lot of Nirvana,
All right.
Weezer, stuff like that. I would literally just put on my headphones and, just disappear for 3 hours. And I cannot believe my parents were totally cool with me just banging away in the basement for that long. But like, all props to them, because I don't think they ever once really stopped me playing. They just let me roll with it. And yeah.
Same with me. I obviously did not end up in a successful band like yourself, but same thing. I was in the basement with my drums. My parents never complained once.
The level of patience is
exactly, which I was about to say. Props to them, because if it were me, it'd be about 10 minutes into that. I'd be like, hey, here's a practice pad.
Right.
And you're going to use that instead of those drums. There you go. Like,
totally. Yeah. It's amazing. And I mean, I hope to have that level of patience when my kid is like, starting out an instrument or something. It'll be, I have to remember that a little bit.
Well, now, once you started playing with John, like in bands, was that still sort of the influences driving your like early bands, were like the post-grunge punk sort of things?
When John and I were playing together, we were listening to a lot of like Interpol and Killers and Strokes. It was sort of in that early 2000s. Yeah, where like kind of good rock and roll was starting to come back, after kind of radio rock had its heyday.
Right.
And so I think that was sort of, we had a lot of those influences going on, mixed with, some other stuff. But yeah, it wasn't really until I think around 2008 where I think John started really getting into focusing on like singer-songwriter material and kind of crafting that side of his writing a little bit more, where it was not based on the energy of the band and more kind of based on, where he's taking you in the song. And so I kind of had to flip the way that I was approaching the drums, because at the time, it was a lot of sort of like rock drumming, right?
Energy. Yeah.
Rock drumming. And I really kind of leaned into like using more percussion elements with him and with the Head and the Heart, focusing more on like textures than just bashing away kind of.
So did he like you said, you made that switch? Was that after he moved out to Seattle? So like before he moved out and you guys were playing before he moved, it was still sort of, like you said, like sort of more radio rock, more that style.
Yeah. And I think, we were all growing in the same direction at the same time. So it was like unspoken, it was like, oh, I see what you're doing there with where your growth is going. Like,
right.
I think I'm headed in the same place. I think like the Walkman or the National was a good example of other drummers that I was looking up to at the time who were doing more of that percussion, textural kind of stuff,
So like you mentioned, so John moves out to Seattle. Now, once he moved out to Seattle, were you guys still like keeping in really like good contact, or is it one of those like, hey, I got to go out to Seattle, and it was like, all right, and then you just heard from him out of nowhere?
Yeah, I think he kind of called me around like May, and he was like, hey, I think I really have something going on out here. Why don't you listen to this? We had been kind of dabbling in other stuff before he moved out to Seattle, and nothing solid. I think our band had broken up before he moved to Seattle, and we were just kind of kicking ideas around.
Yeah.
And that was the first time. It'd probably been about 2 or 3 months, and I couldn't believe how fast he had met these other amazing musicians like Kenny on piano and Josiah. They kind of put it together really quickly. And when he called me, he sent me the demo for Down in the Valley. It was just, I think, acoustic guitar, maybe piano and vocals. And I listened to it with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife. And we both were like, man, this is good. I should go out there. And
she was for it too, huh?
Yeah, she was like, you just seem restless here. You seem like you want to go do something. And we had just been watching all these kind of like sub pop documentaries about Seattle. And about the music scene that was happening in the late 2000s. You know, it was like Band of Horses and Fleet Foxes and Shin.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of great stuff, and it just all felt aligned with where everything was headed, the energy.
Well, I was going to ask, because I saw that in the documentary you guys did in 2021 that you released in 2021 there.
Yeah.
Where you mentioned, as far as you telling your then girlfriend, going, hey, I think I'm going to go do this, and we're going to get signed to Sub Pop. Like, did you actually, like, was it one of those things, like, you really felt it, like, just like, yeah, I think this can, or was it just, you think, because of those documentaries that you were watching, you're like, well, that's the record company in Seattle, and we'll shoot for that, you know?
I think you can't make anything happen unless, like, on this level, unless you have some irrational belief in what you're doing, and
true,
you know, whether it works out or not. I think, you know, the beauty of this band is that I think we've always had this relentless optimism about where we're headed and what we're doing, and I think it stems from those early days where everyone felt like it was meant to be a little bit, you know, including the Sub Pop piece of that puzzle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, so once you moved to Seattle, was there ever, like, because I know, like, in relative terms, especially for like other artists out there, because there's other artists that have been toiling away for, you know, decades, well, not decades, well, maybe decades in some cases, but haven't reached anywhere close to the success that you guys have had. Was there any time at that very beginning, even though, like you said, you'd already got this bit of cohesion, you had John and Josiah there, and Kenny, like, was there any point that you were like, oh, what have I done? Like, was there any of that?
Yeah, there were probably like 2 or 3 points, actually, because when I first moved out there, Kenny was just playing through a piano or like a keyboard, and the keyboard had speakers built in, but he didn't have an amplifier, and they didn't have a PA system. And I just brought a full drum kit out, and I'm like, guys, I can't even hear you. You can't hear yourselves over this drum kit. I have to play drums. You have to play those things. So pretty quickly, everyone was just like, okay, like, how can I pick up an amp? How can we get a PA or a practice space together? It was really like the first month and a half, 2 months of living out there was really like boot camp, kind of, where we were just grinding, trying to make it work, trying to find the solutions to the problems that we knew were there that was preventing us from really playing together in the way that we wanted to at the time, you know? And then, you know, like, long distance relationship falls apart, and you start questioning, like, should I be here? I moved back to Seattle, or back to Richmond, you know? And then we got Chris on bass, and I think it all kind of clicked then, you know? He
was the glue.
He was the glue. I mean, having that final piece of the rhythm section, it sort of bridged the gap between Kenny and I's playing, really filled in those spaces. And I mean, within the first like 10 minutes of playing together, we were like, this is the band, you know, like, this is it. Like, he's the dude, you're the piano player, everyone's in the right place. And then we started practicing every day, pretty much.
You got to feel it's gonna, when everybody can look at each other and know, like, or feel like this is right.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of the puzzle right there.
Yeah. Well, and there was even some people who, like, you know, we had like a couple other members, and we all had a sit down talk. We were like, we're doing this. We're going for this. If you don't want to do this, if anybody doesn't want to do this, on, like, with the amount of energy and effort that this is going to require, you know, bow out now. And there are 2 other people who just were like, you know, it's not in the cards for us. And then it was the 6 of us. So
I wonder, I would say they probably don't regret it, because that's where they were. I mean, but like, I might regret it a little bit if I were one of them. Like, that probably.
I think they're, you know, they weren't really serious musicians. And in the sense of, like, you know, one played glockenspiel, and it was like, do you need a glockenspiel player? I don't know. I don't even think
maybe on a couple songs, maybe.
Yeah, it's an overdub in the studio or something. But, you know, like, I think they realized, like, you know, this isn't really my life. You know? So,
Well, now you guys. So after, like I said, it didn't take too long. Once you got, I mean, you had that boot camp. You started playing, and you sold your own CDs at concerts. Once you got that collection of songs together.
Yeah.
And was that like, I mean, from the whatever, obviously it's different than everything that I read in hindsight, but like, was it pretty immediate, like from after like the first couple of gigs that you were doing, that people were wanting those CDs and they were selling fast?
Yeah, so Chris had kind of been embedded in the music scene already in Seattle. He had been playing in like a lot of popular bands.
Yeah.
And so he kind of like started inviting, friends out, like, hey, come check out this new thing I'm in. We don't have a record yet, but we're like going into the studio in March through May. We were recording of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And the first show that we had CDs at was like the record release show. I think it was June 10th, 2010. I remember the date. And we had burned CDs, and we had stitched together old jeans into CD cases, and we stamped them with the head and the heart.
Mm-hmm.
We messed the stamp up, and it was backwards. So came out backwards. Of course, that's, a great story now, but
gotta find those heirs out there. Whoever has one of those, that's a memorabilia right there.
Yeah. There's like 100 of them out there, and people certainly have reached out about them. And yeah, that night we sold out of CDs. The show sold out, and we were like, "Oh, now we got to go like press some CDs." So I think we took the money and did like, do you remember disc makers at all?
Yeah.
Where you could actually go and like get CDs made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seems so antiquated now, but it was only like 15 years ago. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And now CDs don't really exist on that, that level. And so we got the disc maker CDs made, and then we started consigning them at record stores around Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic Boom, Easy Street. And we ended up selling 10,000 copies. We just kept having to reprint it.
Wow. That's got to be an awesome feeling.
Yeah, that time was like, it was like the closest I've ever felt like there's magic in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, this hurricane of energy like is picking the six of us up together, and we're sort of like getting carried out of our everyday lives into this whole different place. It was so surreal feeling.
Yeah.
And
and so around that point in time, that's when Sub Pop came around. Now I love the story. You had the story actually when you got there. You lost your phone. You were getting gas. It was on the top of your car. The phone flies off. Somebody picks it up. The person that picks it up worked at Sub Pop.
Yeah.
And like, you got to go pick it up. Now,
yeah.
Was that person that you actually talked to when you guys actually got signed to Sub Pop, or did you see that person again?
Oh yeah. He was still there. His name's Andrew Sullivan. And I mean, we still keep in touch, and he actually we have this Rivers and Roads Foundation in Seattle where we it's basically a charity for local music and the arts scene in Seattle. And his kid goes to a school in West Seattle, and we actually, they're a beneficiary of our foundation now, providing a music program for them. So it's sort of like a full circle, which is really cool. He had found my phone in the middle of an intersection in Capitol Hill, and he texted Charity because that was the last person I called.
Yeah.
And her and I were together in the studio working on like violin or vocals or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go pick up my phone and get to the office, and it's Sub Pop 3rd floor. Ring it. He comes down. I don't mention anything about, I didn't want to be that guy. I think I gave him my last like $20 bill that I had to my name, probably just like, hey, I hope this guy remembers me later on. I made a good impression or something,
Did he, when you came back, like when you when you got signed, when you were actually talking about joining Sub Pop?
Yeah, he came to we had been talking to a bunch of labels, but we really wanted to be on Sub Pop. We were a Seattle band. We identified as that. Yeah. And it was where we wanted to end up. And he actually came to like the dinner where we met everybody and for the first time. And we looked at each other and we're like, you? This is a very surreal moment.
That's right. I'm back.
Here I am.
Do you remember my $20? I'm going to need that back.
Yeah. He bought dinner. It was great, you know.
It's even. It's even.
Yeah, it's even.
Well, like, I mean, so I do. It's wild. You are obviously aware of this. Talking about that magic as far as that starting out.
Yeah.
People love that first album. I mean, it's crazy. You look at just the Spotify numbers. I mean, Lost in My Mind and Rivers and Roads, just those two songs have over 500 million streams.
Yeah.
Like,
insane.
I mean, you guys obviously love your own work. I mean, when you finished it, you were like, hey, this is a great product. But did you think did you have any idea like, oh, this is going to connect with a lot of people? Like, what did you think when you finished that CD at the beginning and you're starting to hand it out before it kept selling out like that?
I remember we had a conversation as we finished it with the engineer who was working on it. And we were like, oh, it's a great calling card. Now, you know, hopefully this allows us to like really get into the studio and work on the masterpiece. And he just looked at us and he was like, what are you guys talking about? This record might be the masterpiece. Cool. I mean, I'm glad you feel that way. You know, you're so inside the bubble that you never know what an album means to the outside world until you put it out there, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can love it. I've loved every record we've made, whether they've succeeded or whether, you know, we could have done better. Like you're giving yourself in the moment without worrying about how it reacts out there in the world. You have to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, I mean, even with that album, you could say the album cover is pretty legendary. And I actually saw a while back, Chris made a post about taking that picture.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, did he take that planning on it being like the album cover, or was that just like a shenanigans picture that turned out to be an album cover?
I think it was a shenanigans picture because we were on a photo shoot with a real photographer. And I had brought the sheep's mask from Richmond, actually, and Josiah grabbed it as we were leaving the house, and he just put it on his head up top on his hair.
Yeah.
And for that shot, he just like put it over his face.
Yeah.
And Chris walked up over the shoulder of the photographer and grabbed it with like his iPhone. And it was like an iPhone 3, maybe?
Yeah. I think that's what he said. Yeah. In the post. Yeah.
Super pixelated. And I remember that photographer got pretty didn't go with his version of it. But we were like, dude, there's something about the iPhone shot where it just feels more authentic and textured and real.
Yeah.
And the magic of that kind of serendipitous, like, whoosh, like capture. And that was before the days of like Apple making commercials that say like shot on iPhone.
Yeah.
It was like, oh wait, that was just so random that happened. So
yeah,
I think we're pretty proud of that cover. It's always like,
it's definitely iconic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It fits in there. Like, it's one of those, I feel like it's one of those that even as big as the album is, it sort of surpasses the album, and the fact that people that don't know anything about the band might know that cover. They've seen it, like they've seen it, you know, in music stores. They've seen it on like walls, and they're like, yeah. Which is so wild, like you said, as far as the mask, the sheep's mask. That like,
I mean, it's just those moments you can't structure them, right? Like they just, if it's gonna be good, it just has to happen organically like that. Because I feel like once you start messing with like, you know, trying to orchestrate that stuff, then you just get lost a little bit, and it's not as, it doesn't feel the same way.
Listeners are well aware. They know I've said it a bunch on the show, but I am not a fan of structured or organized fun, planned fun.
Yeah.
You ruin fun when you try to like plan it. And it's exactly like that like anything like that you're trying to do, if you structure it and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we need to do this, it's not going to be the same.
I think that's interesting because as you know, we got further into the career, you start getting these people around you who are like, try this out, or like, here's an idea, and you're like, okay, cool, like maybe that's how it's done, or maybe that's a better way of doing it. And I think through those experiments, we've sort of come back to this place of like spontaneous experimentation. That's what I think this record is all about. This new one that we're going to release this year.
Nice.
It's interesting how that sort of like, I didn't really put that together until you and I are just talking about it. But yeah, I mean, it feels like we sort of killed the band and started over, if that makes sense.
Yeah. A phoenix.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think we had reached like the logical conclusion of one way of working, if that makes sense.
Well, before I go on to the new way of working, real quick, one other thing I wanted to ask about on the first album. I was cruising around the internet, and I was looking at the Head and the Heart merch.
Yeah.
I was just checking out different things, and I came across what they labeled. This was on, I think it was on Mercari. They labeled as a signed program from your very first show together. Now, did you do your very first, like, some first official show at the Jewel Box Theater?
Yeah.
Was it Friday, February 19th? Does that sound right?
That was probably the first show with Chris on bass with this lineup. Yep. Yeah, that was. We were terrible. We actually had to stop. I think it was Coeur d'Alene. We got lost in the middle of it, and we had to literally stop the song in the middle of the song, and everyone's looking around, just like that happened. So yeah.
Well, wow, this may be an actual, real program. Then there we go.
I think that's legit.
Wow. Okay, man. Okay, any the Head and the Heart fanatics out there that want a piece of history, right there, and you have the story now that they had to restart the song completely in the middle of it. That's
you've got a program on sale for our worst show ever. So
there you go. You go. Always, there's nowhere else to go but up from here. All right. Yeah. Well, so you mentioned it, like your sound has changed sort of all the way through the band. Was there ever any like urge by the band? I mean, since that first album was so successful, was there an urge of being like, let's try and recreate that? Let's try, like, and not so much like you mentioned, I mean, as far as like the spontaneity, but more of like, hey, the stripped down, more acoustic style really worked there. Did you ever was that ever a mention in the band, or is it just like, no, let's do what, sort of inspires us?
Yeah, honestly, I can't say we've ever had that conversation, because I think what we've always tried to do is really align with where we are as people. And I'm not even saying that always is the most pure or authentic way of doing, like the way we did it is not always the most pure or authentic, but it's where we were in the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever wanted to look back and go, hey, that was really successful. Let's try to do that again. I think along the way, we've always tried to kind of push ourselves to find something deeper. You know what I mean? And I think it's interesting. I think if we had maybe had like, super critical acclaim or something from the get-go, then it might have been different. Like I really do think if you sort of get like, like the pitchforks at the time, it was so, those blogs and web, it was so big, and I don't think we ever had them on our side. So it always felt like we had like this chip on our shoulder of like, hey, we're not good enough. Like we have to get better or push boundaries. And, I think as we've grown up a little bit, I think we don't really care so much about that anymore, or like the idea of reinventing the wheel or, so I think we've like naturally come back to this place where we're sort of approaching music in that natural way again, if that makes sense. So It doesn't feel like we have anything to prove. It doesn't feel like we have anything to lose. We're sort of like at this step one again. I feel like, in a weird way, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, it makes sense in the fact that the first album you didn't know then anyways. There were no critics' opinions. So it was, we're going to make what we want to, what inspires us. And then inevitably after that first album, you're going to hear what people think. You're going to hear what critics think. You're going to hear what just fans think. And I mean, he's going to creep in there somewhere at some point.
It's hard not, you can't tune it out. It's so hard to like, you know, I think a lot of people say, oh, I don't read the press or fan reactions or anything like that. But like when you put something into the world, like you can feel it's a weird, like you can feel the reaction.
Yeah.
Even if you don't read anything. So like, you know, I think it's this strange thing of like observing something changes it metaphysically, you know, almost like quantum physics or something. Like when people listen to your album, it changes the way your album is. It just changes your album. So weird.
Yeah.
And sometimes it changes it in a good way. And sometimes you look back and you're like, well, that didn't work, you know, but you don't know until other people look at it.
Yeah.
And I think for so long we've been reactionary in our music making to the record that came before, you know, trying to do something different, or, you know, just not resting on our laurels. And I think, it's an interesting place to find ourselves in now, where we just kind of don't give about that stuff anymore.
Well, let's talk the new album. I think you finished it in June.
Yeah, fairly. I mean, I think the recording was done in June, and then we've been working on it ever since then.
Yeah.
You know, we've been mixing and mastering and sequencing the record. And sometimes that stuff is even more of a battle than the actual recording, you know? Yeah. People start to have real opinions about what the album should be. And I think you like start forming alliances and voting, voting blocks and stuff, you know? And
how many songs can you tell us? How many songs like you had that you recorded in June?
Yeah, we had 16 full songs sort of ready to go, and we pared that down to 12. So there may be,
that's the final.
That's the 12 is the final on this, you know, first kind of version of the record, and there may be more releases, you know, down the road of some of the songs that didn't make it. But it's cool. Like we have a totally new team. This go round, we got new management, we got a new label, and it just feels like even them, the way they've helped us finish this album.
Yeah.
It's just a very nice like support system where it doesn't feel like, you know, you're being pulled in directions that you don't necessarily see yourself going in, you know? Yeah.
Now you guys, you released Arrow as a single there in October.
Yeah.
And it's extremely anthemic to me. You know, it's just got that sort of inspiring feel to it. It builds. It's very climatic. I'm guessing the entire album isn't like that. There's highs and lows throughout this album as far as like the feeling of the songs.
The energy of it. Yeah. I think we wanted to, you know, like when we were making that song, it was like, man, is this like Lost in My Mind 2.0? That's like what it felt like when we were recording it. And so it was just kind of like, hey, let's put this out there as kind of a reminder of what this band does best, you know? 6 people playing their instruments in a room together. And I mean, there's obviously like, there's some slow burners, and there's some even, you know, more up-tempo jammer anthem songs than this one, but this felt like the nice reintroduction of the band, I think.
Yeah, well, I would say like Lost in My Mind, but I mean, you've got John is, you know, the vocals are definitely more.
Yeah, he's found some power in the lab.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Throughout our career, his singing voice has just gotten so strong. It's can't be contained anymore.
Well, now in the video, you have clips of the Red Rocks performance.
Yeah.
Now, was that the first Red Rocks performance you ever had?
No, that was actually our 10th headline.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but does it ever get old?
No, that's the best. It's the best venue in the world, and it's like a family reunion for the band. Like everyone that we know is there, everyone that we love, our families, you know, and I think in the video you can see like a lot of our kids hopped on stage, and that was it's just such a moment every time we get to play Red Rocks. Never gets old.
Well, to me, like the one thing I got to say, like a lot of like venues, you look out and you're up from like the audience, and the audience is either sort of flat or slowly inclining. At Red Rocks, every time I look at those pictures, I'm like, Jesus, they're like right on top of you. It's always just like, it's such a steep incline on those rocks, and just like, especially at night, it just looks, you're looking out at this sea of people, like a wall of people. That's
really what it feels like. It feels like a wave of people is about to crest onto the stage.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's wild, man. It is wild.
Nothing like it.
Well, now, I know Josiah, co-founder of the band, for listeners that don't know, he did several performances with you guys in 2023.
Yeah.
And he had to step away from music there. Have you heard from him recently? Is he doing all right?
Yeah, he's doing good. He actually just got married, and yeah, I think music and the pressures that come with it, and the excitement and energy that comes with it,
yeah,
I think it sets him off, and I don't think he's able to be the person he wants to be, with those outside forces on him. And I think it's really brave of him to say, like, I have to step away from music because it's not healthy for me.
Yeah.
He loves music, and he loves playing music, and he loves us, and he loves the people out there. But it's a weird thing, you know, and I think he's really saving his life by being good to himself, you know?
Well, I was about to say, you could literally see that, or at least I felt like I could, looking at some of those performances when he came back with the band and played. You could see the fact that he loved it so much, but at the same time, it was sort of creeping into his head, like, this isn't good for me. Like, this is, you know, so
I think it like stimulates him in a way that, like, he can't be a regular human being.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, you sort of already mentioned this before, but the new album, you sort of went back to that spontaneity. Was that also in the recording process? Like, when you came back, like you mentioned, you recorded it there in your hometown there in Virginia. Was it similar, like, as the first album? How has it changed in that 15 years as far as just like recording and that process for you guys?
I think that's my favorite question about this record, because, you know, we were talking about how we like to do, you know, we try to find new territory on every album. And I think with this album, it was the spontaneity, where that first record was actually super rehearsed before we ever went in and got into the studio. You know, we knew what the song was going to be. The lyrics were written, all the parts were arranged, and we just had to record it, you know? And that was how it had to be, because we were very broke and trying to, you know, make that studio time really, you know, work out for us.
Worth it. Yeah,
worth it. And so this time, you know, like, we were like, okay, well, we're going to self-produce again, but we don't have a ton of songs going into this process. So let's see what happens. And all of a sudden, like, probably it's like the first time this has ever happened, but we were writing songs in the room together in one take, without talking about it, without looking at each other, just like playing. And a whole song would form. And then an hour later, John's ad-libbing vocals in the vocal booth, and you have the song. Like, the song on the record called Cop Car. Literally, it's the only time we ever played that song, and it's the only time John ever sang that song. And that's the recording. Like,
Nice.
I don't know how it happened. There were so many moments on this record like that. And, Maddie got really good at, we'd kind of jam a little bit, and then he'd take the jam, almost like Paul Simon did on Graceland. He'd take the tape back to his house and he'd, chop it up, and then he'd write lyrics over it and present it back to us as like a full song. And we're like, wow, we've never worked like this.
Yeah.
But we're doing it live in a room together. We're all on our, core instruments.
Yeah.
And we're producing the whole thing. So it sounds like this band. And I don't know. It's probably my favorite record we've ever made, just because of the freshness of it all.
Yeah. Well, now, we talked about this a little bit as well, but like, do you guys have goals or like expectations once you finish an album? I mean, like this album, is there anything other than like, let's release it into the world and see what they say back?
I don't know. I mean, I think this is a record where I think we've tried to come into it very expectationless, Sometimes those expectations get built up by your team or the people around you who are like, man, this record's really good. Like, you're going to get a Grammy, or, like,
yeah.
And at a certain point, you're just like, man, does that even matter? Like, we're making the music we want to make. And I think that's sort of where we are on this album. There's a lot of like laissez-faire attitude within the band right now of like,
nice.
We made this record. Like, this is what this band is in 2025. If you like it, that's great, and if you don't, that's okay too. So yeah. I think we're the most sort of even keeled we've ever been when it comes to expectations. And
nice.
Yeah, it feels good to be sort of just secure in the art that we made, if that makes sense.
Well, it allows for honest art when a group's like that. Yeah. I love asking this question. This is the last question here. What song are you most excited for people to hear on the album? Doesn't have to be which one you think is the best.
Yeah.
But which one do you think is the one that if like somebody picked up the album today, if they could, you'd go, check that one out. Listen to that one.
Yeah, I've had to do that, recently, because I'm sending the record to friends and I'm like, check this song. But like, there are so many moments on the album where I feel that way. But I think in this moment right now, the one that's really coming to mind is a song called West Coast.
West Coast.
Yeah, that Kenny actually wrote the lyrics for all the verses. So he's never written any lyrics. And he also sang a lead vocal.
Wow.
Other people added on to, so it sounds like a blend of voices. But first time Kenny's ever sang on a record, first time he's ever wrote lyrics, and it's just this very beautiful song about hoping a relationship continues. And I think that that's sort of like a good metaphor for where this band is right now. We all want this thing to last forever, and that song kind of makes me feel that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Is it like would you say it's like with Kenny singing, is it like some of like the Eagles songs when somebody would switch off that wouldn't normally sing, that it's like it has that little bit of different flavor to it than the other songs, like when Glenn Frey or Don Henley were singing?
I think Eagles is a very appropriate reference for that song. Like, nice. even down to how we wanted the drums to sound when we were mixing it. So, yeah, it's very classic.
You've got me hooked. If that's what you're saying, that's I'm excited. I've got it written down now. That's always whenever I do that. I'm super excited when the album comes out because I'm like, all right, I'm going to it. That's the one. That's the one I want to hear.
I'll have Eric send you the record.
Oh yes. Hear that, listeners? Be jealous. I'm going to get to hear it early. Well, Tyler, we are very excited for the new album, and I want to thank you for taking the time and coming on and talking with us today.
It's been a pleasure, man. Seriously, what a great time.
Yeah, listeners, make sure you check out all the Head and the Heart music right now. Let's hear the single that's out. Let's hear Arrow right here on the Doc G Show. And we are back here on the Doc G Show. The head and the heart, Mike.
Yes.
The head and
Thank
the
you.
heart. Whew, my goodness. I mean, so many good things. I could have, I've told you this multiple times, Mike, but I think any artist that's had such a cool career like them, it's tough because I want to do like a 5-hour interview with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've had all this awesome stuff, and I'm like, and then after the interview, I'm like, I didn't get to talk about that. I could have talked about that too. I didn't get to talk about this. That was cool, like, you know? And it's pretty wild too, like how dedicated he was to this idea. I mean, he went across the country from Richmond to Seattle just by hearing the demo of the band that they sent him and said, hey, we need a drummer. I think we've got something. Here's this demo. Like that.
So true.
I gotta be honest. I don't think I have the balls to do it, Mike.
Yeah, it's a big leap of faith.
I don't think I would have done it. You know, I would have. It would have been the bachelor party for sure. I would have convinced myself. I'd be like, no way, I can't do it. That's you know how long that is. That's not worth it. I'm not doing it. But like that's. And then they got there. And it's just like practice camp for months. They just get in there, start working their stuff out, and drill it home. But then, like as soon as they do that, they had like immediate payoff, which had to be awesome. Like as soon as they then they put out their album, and it's just selling like hotcakes in Seattle, which has got to be like that's got to be the coolest high ever. Like I mean, like when you're an artist and like all of a sudden that CD is selling, like you go to every single one of your shows and like you sell out of them in just like a couple of minutes, like that's got to be, whew, that's a dopamine hit of all dopamine hits right there. Sure. Like, I mean, like, that's one of those things too, like where you haven't, there's like no expectations on them yet because they're such a small band. And so that little response is like, it's your whole world. And there's no negative thoughts about it. You're not like, oh, well, what about the follow-up to this? Oh, what am I going to do about this? How did they think? Like, no, it's just all positives of like, yeah, they love our album. It's our first album. Awesome. Like, you know, good stuff, man.
Yeah, it is.
Good stuff. But then that's the other hard thing is then following that. Every single album after that album is so popular. Like, you're just looking at that being like, got to follow that? Yeah, but like hats off to them because they don't seem like they've never seemed to be like, how are we gonna? Now they do seem like they've thought like, how are we going to make a better album?
Yeah,
but not like, how are we going to basically repeat that? They've never tried to like repeat it. Which
that's good because it's easy to get caught up in. I imagine when you.
I would have done the exact same album. I would have literally just done the same lyrics, just with opposite words, just like just like rhyming exactly with it. Like, huh?
We're gonna play
pretty
the
good,
same
right?
music, just kind of a different lyric for
exactly. I put it in a different key. It's the exact same key. Just like like I when it's that good of a response, how can you not, man? How can you not? Can you imagine, like I said before we went on there, that 30,000 person? Now you've Red Rocks. There's been some comedians that have done Red Rocks, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A good amount. Yeah. That, like, I told him, like, every time I watch a Red Rocks concert, it seemed like those stands are so on top of the person. Like, it's literally just, like, straight up. And then at night, it's just like a wall of, like, cell phone lights. I'm like, God, that'd be too... I don't know if I'd have a panic attack up there.
It seems like it would be awesome as a musician, but not so much as a comedian.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I was telling somebody this the other day about my teaching, Mike, and there are some classrooms that have a really steep lecture hall, right? So it's like right on top of each other, like literally, like the seats, like you go up like 8 rows and you're already up like 50 feet.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and
so
cool.
I think that looks cool. That would be cool. I'm talking about the outdoor aspect of it. The outdoor aspect of Red Rocks would be terrible.
Yeah.
Performing there would be legendary. still being outside would be very challenging as a stand-up. But
Yeah.
I do like those, like
I
what
see.
you were talking about with your classes.
I don't see like
No?
that's the thing is like it's much more it's like they're on me.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like
Yeah.
everybody's on me, and I don't like that when I'm any type of lecture, performance, anything. I'm like, oh, all right,
Yeah.
back up a little bit. That's enough. Like
There was
you know,
an improv theater in New York City that was like that they had stand-up shows at that. Man, I loved performing there for that reason because it was
Really?
just so unique. It was just like, it was like a wall of people just going straight up.
Oh, see, I'm a little bit of
enjoy
the
that,
opposite.
yeah.
I wanted to go out. I wanted to go out because I can look at the front people and I
Mm-hmm.
just imagine that's the people I'm talking to. The
Yeah.
front, like 10. But then I start thinking, and there's 10,000 out there. I'm like, you guys are making me nervous back there. Stop it. You know, I just, it's, but I mean, like the Red Rocks, so epic. Then the Seattle show, so epic.
Yeah.
I mean, now I've never heard of a comedian doing that. Just going into the middle of a city, shutting down the roads and talking to 30,000 people in the middle of a city. Like,
Yeah, no way.
that would be insane.
Yeah.
That'd
Not
be
a good
absolutely
idea.
insane. But regardless, Mike, I am little side note, little bit of development, listeners. Since we did the interview, he sent me a link to the new album.
Cool.
That's right. Yeah. I got insider info,
There you
Mike.
go.
I've heard it before anybody has released it. So it's pretty sweet. And I did hear West Coast, and I did enjoy it. I will say it's very different. I mean, again, they changed their sound completely on it. You can tell it's sort of a complete rethink. But I went through a bunch of the songs, jams.
Nice.
So listeners, make sure you check it out when it comes out. It's going to be a good one, man. The Head and the Heart, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Fantastic, Mike. Just another great group to put on the list that has been
Yeah.
on the show, you know?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
Proud to say it, you know? Mike, we need to move on, though, so I've got very bad news. Mike has already heard of this bad news. I broke it to him during one of the breaks. But listeners, I failed you. And I don't know really how I failed you. I guess maybe because it was so fun for me to find all of the one-hit wonders last week that then I just forgot that there was another one this week. Like, it was like, but I didn't look up any, I didn't do any research, listeners. Girl, come on. So I just thought about it last night. I was getting everything ready for the show. I was like, oh man, I got to get this. And I was like, what was the Mike C top 3? And I was like, oh crap. And I didn't want to rush it, Mike, because it was like almost midnight when I thought of that. So,
Yeah.
listeners, I know it sounds just not acceptable, but I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it 1 week, okay? So hang with us 1 week, and we're going to do the same thing. Mike is prepared.
I'm fun. I'm pumped. I'm excited.
Mike said he has 16
Yeah.
16 honorable mentions. Well, 13, I guess, right? 13 and then 3, or
Something
is it
like
16?
that. Yeah.
Okay. But regardless, I don't know if I'm going to have another 22 like I had with rap, but I'm going to have a lot of honorable mentions because there's a lot of good ones. By the way, Mike, I did forget one of the honorable mentions my brother mentioned because we were talking about one-hit wonders for rap.
Mm-hmm.
Domino was the rapper. He had a song, let me check, Ghetto Jam. Domino Ghetto Jam. Should have been on the list. Because that was a sweet jam.
Sam Cooke, Domino, Ghetto
Yep,
Jam.
Domino Ghetto Jam. I had the single of that.
Single.
Yes, the old cassette single. Solid. I had to get the single because the album was parental advisory, and I wasn't near any stores that would allow 8-year-olds to get parental advisories. Now, I did know of some stores, Mike. We knew some stores. Now, the old cover, here's what you used to do back in the day. You'd get the price tag, put it over the parental advisory, and
Hack.
then and then go to the oldest person in the store that seemed least knowledgeable of music and check out with them. Find the 70-year-old dude that was working there and be like, here's the CD, my good man, and I'll just be checking out. That's how it worked, Mike. That's
Pro
how
move.
it worked.
Pro move.
Anyways, listeners, I promise, next week, top 3 one-hit wonders, rock and pop of the 90s. We'll get it done. And then we'll probably have some more one-hit wonders, because I want more one-hit wonders. There's lots of them.
Can I make a side note, Doc G? You know what was
Side note.
incredible about going to Walmart for me was when they had singles on the as a separate, their own separate little section. I always enjoyed going through the singles.
Yeah.
To see what's out.
Well, you
what's
know,
new.
it was super dynamic. That was where all that's where all the singles were, obviously.
Yeah.
So they were faster as far as coming in and out.
Yeah.
And that was also because that was back in the day, of course, before you could just release it on demand,
Which was a
with
Wednesday,
streaming.
by the way.
Yes.
Sorry.
Back in the day. Shout out Dane Cook. But the singles would come out before the albums.
Yes.
So you would get these artists that you never heard of, or these big artists that were up and coming, but their whole album hadn't come out, and you're like, boom, there it is. Plus, when you're 8 and 10 years old, you can actually afford a single because you can find $3 somewhere.
Yeah.
You couldn't find a $15 or $18 for an album. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rob a bank for
rich.
that. Good Lord, you know. Okay, I'm very excited about next week. I'm sorry I ruined it for everybody. That is my fault. I'm going to have to live with that shame for this whole week. Mike, we've got 2 birthday suits left. Let's see. What do you want? I think both of these you got them.
Okay.
One of them is a Food Network star, and the other is a women's basketball player.
Women's basketball player. Let's go.
Okay. Here's the simple clue. Probably the most popular WNBA player
Caitlin
right
Clark.
now. Caitlin Clark is correct. Nice. Yes. There we go. My full short clue for you, Mike, was most popular WNBA player, plays for the Indiana Fever, and just went to the Kansas City Chiefs game with Taylor Swift. Don't know if you saw that.
Did see that, yeah.
They were hobnobbing up there, Mike.
They were whispering to each other, which is a huge friendship move.
And people were talking, there were the negative Nancys and stuff. And on this one, I got to be honest, I saw no negative. I was like, if I was Caitlin Clark, I'd say, yeah. Free game, and that's my team. I'm going. Why not? Come on now. You crazy?
Yeah. And potential T Swift concert tickets in the future. Let's go.
Of course I'd go, man. You get all the cameras on you. You're just deucing it for the cameras. What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Actually, you got to act like you're not. You don't notice that there's 17 million cameras on you, and you're just like, oh, I'm watching the game. I didn't even know. What? It's crazy. Anywho, she was born January 22nd, 2002, Mike.
Wow.
My goodness. Young buck. Yes, young buck. Des Moines, Iowa. We got some listeners in Des Moines. Shout out Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
Started playing basketball at the age of 5. Obviously, she was phenomenal. She was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. She ultimately chose Iowa and ultimately became the most decorated college basketball player of all time, arguably. She won about everything. She was the 2-time player of the year. She was an all-time All-American 4 times. She was a Big Ten player of the year 3 years. She was scoring and assist leader 3 times in a row in the NCAA. Jeez. Just insane. But I will point out, Iowa and Caitlin Clark did lose to South Carolina in the championships. Go Cox! She was drafted by the Indiana Fever, number 1 in her first season. First season in the WNBA. I am one of those, Mike, I judge Wemby pretty hard. I'm like, wait until we get awards. I don't need to. But her first season, she was assist leader for the WNBA. She was rookie of the year. She was all team. All WNBA first team. She was a WNBA All-Star, in her rookie season.
Yeah.
That's pretty nutter butters.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. Happy birthday. That would be 23 for her. So she is no longer feeling 22. Man, that had to be weird last year. I just realized that. Her birthday is January 22nd on 2002, and she was turning 22. You just got twos all the way across there for everything. But not anymore. 23. She's 23. In her Jordan year. She's in her Jordan year, Mike. Okay, next one. Born on January 26, 1956. Our birthday suit wearer, host of the very popular Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Name that birthday suit wearer, Mike.
Diners. Oh, man.
He's the mayor of Flavortown, and he's got spiky. There we go. Guy Fieri is correct. Yes. Birthday suit wearer was born in Ohio, Mike, but he grew up in California. He went to France in a foreign exchange program in high school. That's where he became, obsessed with food, interested in food. He attended UNLV, where he got a degree in hotel management, and afterwards started opening restaurants. In 2006, he won the reality contest, The Next Food Network Star. I didn't know that. I never realized that it was actually like a reality show for the Food Network that got him on there.
And a star.
Yeah. They said he's going to be the star.
This is going to be a star right here.
And they were right. I mean, honestly, they were very right. He has kept that thing afloat for the last several decades.
Yeah, yes.
His second show on the network was Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, which is arguably, I don't know the exact numbers, but arguably the most popular show on Food Network. In 2021, he signed a 3-year deal with Food Network worth roughly $80 million. Not bad. That shows you how popular that show is, if they're willing to give him $80 million for 3 years. Yeah. Anywho, Guy Fieri. By the way, there is, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he came on our show a couple of years before you started, Mike. Shane Torres, the comedian Shane Torres. Mm-hmm. He has a stand-up bit that he used to do back in the day, and like the title was Guy Fieri, and it just brings up how much people hate him for basically no reason. And like he brings up all the great things that Guy Fieri's done in his life, and yet people still hate him because of his hair and basically his jewelry. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
It is an awesome bit. That's actually what made me ask him if he could come on the show. It's pretty funny.
Write it down. Gonna watch it.
It's a good one. Anyways, happy birthday to Guy Fieri turning 69. 69
nice.
For Guy Fieri. Yeah. And then Caitlin Clark, 23. And then Sam Cooke, R.I.P., but happy birthday. Mike, we need to wrap it up. I am very excited. I don't know if you noticed that, Mike. My microphone almost got away from me.
Oh.
It's real loose today.
Oh.
Yeah, it's got quite a swing to it.
Kind of cool.
Anywho,
like it.
That was not for you, listeners. You could not see that. I apologize. Mike, we got some great shows coming up. Can't wait for them, but we got to wrap it up. I've been your host, Doc G. With me, as always, the one, the only, Mikey Maximus, the
Vernicus.
Dad.
Sorry.
No, Mike. You are no longer the Fernicus. You're the dad. I was looking for some other type of way to say the dad, but I couldn't think of anything.
The Dadicus.
The Dadicus. Charette.
Always a pleasure, Doc G. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. The Dadicus. That's not bad.
That's a fact.
I like the Dadicus.
Mm-hmm.
It's very close to Atticus, you know?
Okay.
Anywho.
Yeah.
That has nothing.
I like
it. We're going to workshop it, listeners. We're going to workshop it. Until next week, zip it up and zip it out.
Zippity-doo-dah.